very dedicated to it, and we love it when you guys come in and get to see it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Judy Martin as this year's inductee, and she'll soon have her picture on the walls of the house. And we got to hear all about the genius that is Judy Martin yesterday.
From my husband.
And he said he's hiding in the corner back there.
Oh, okay.
And it's a shame he didn't get more excited, you know. But we're so thrilled to have you. We're so happy for you and your whole family.
And we're so happy to be a part of this.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. For those of you who might be interested, these quilts in this room, plus 2 from the other room, will be moved to the Marie Webster House on August 3rd. If any of you would like to help install that exhibit, we're always open for volunteers. And it will be with us until the end of September. Wow. So, Judy, thank you so much for bringing your beautiful quilts and for a great weekend. And I can't wait for them all to hear all about your quilts. So
thank you.
Go right on.
I was afraid we were going to have to strap Kate here to the top of the car. We had so many quilts to pack. Anyway, my name's Judy Martin. I made my first quilt as I was a college student, and it was an emotional moment. I grew up sewing clothes. You know, by junior high school, I had to learn. My mother had been making all our clothes, and if you want any control over your wardrobe, you got to make them yourself. So I started making my clothes, and the first thing I spent money on when I was going to go off to college, and I'd had a summer job, was I bought a little Singer featherweight that was 20 years old, and it was owned by the machine repairman's wife, so I figured it was probably in pretty good shape. And I didn't know anything about quilts, but by the time I went to college, everybody's wearing jeans and t-shirts, and I'm not making those. And I had no interest in making clothes anymore. And when I came home for Thanksgiving from college, my parents had divorced, and they were in different houses, not the house that I grew up in. And I said, "Where's my stuff?" And my mom said it was out in the garage, and I dug through. First thing I found was a box of sewing scraps from my dressmaking, you know, mostly cottons from shirts and stuff like that. And I thought, I'm gonna make a quilt, because Mom always saved scraps for the ladies at church to make quilts out of it, but I'd never seen one. And I thought, well, all quilts are made out of uniform squares. And I'm gonna do something different because I'm creative. And so I made a quilt out of squares and rectangles. And it was just scrappy red, and also, I didn't use every color like all the other quilters do. I did a color scheme. I did red, white, and blue. What did I know? I knew nothing. But I made this quilt out of red, white, and blue scraps. Had to go out to the store to buy some more. Don't we always? Yes. We make quilts? Yeah. My plan is to go to the store when I'm going to make a quilt, so I won't use up all the fabric I have, because I love my fabric and I might need it. So anyway, I made this quilt. My mother was in a pretty small house by this time, and my siblings were forced to walk around the edges of the living room because I had this quilt laid out in the little form. But I got it all pieced over the long Thanksgiving weekend, so it wasn't a very complicated quilt, obviously. But I felt so accomplished. It was way better than making a shirt or, you know, a pair of pants or something. And I was hooked. And then I was promising my sister I'd make her one. And then my sister sent me a book about quilts. So her quilt was similar to mine, but different colors. She sent me a book, 101 Patrick patterns. I couldn't believe there were 101 patterns for quilts. And they had stars, and they had octagons, and they had all sorts of things. So I was thrilled, but also a little crestfallen, because I thought, oh, there's nothing new I can do. It's all been done. Well, I've spent the last 57 years thinking of other things to do. And these are some of my examples. These are all original designs, but they're very much derived from traditional patterns. We'll start with this one. This is, obviously, if you know anything about quilts, that's a Lone Star. It's a small Lone Star, but it's a Lone Star. That's a traditional pattern. This is a log cabin, just a typical log cabin. I combined the two things and I added these accent blocks that have a little bit of diamonds work in the corner of the log cabin. And I like the feeling of doing something that maybe nobody has done before, at least I haven't seen it done before, so it feels original to me. And this is Starlight Log Cabin from 1994. By this time I had been making quilts, 25 years? So it was, one would hope I had gotten a little better from that first quilt. This here is the most popular quilt pattern I've ever published. I write quilting books and give patterns. This is all traditional elements but combined in a new way. So this is a traditional rising star block, has a small star inside a large star. This is the traditional evening star block, which is just that star. And I've done both stars in reverse colors, so that's 4 kinds of blocks right there. And then I've got a 5th block. This is a traditional monkey wrench or snail's trail or Virginia reel. It's got a lot of names, but that's a popular traditional pattern. And is it usually done with an alternate plain block here? So you get these same shapes, but I put a star block there. So on the white ones, the star blocks have a white background, the red ones, star blocks have a red background. Anyway, that's been really popular. It looks, I don't know, a little bit complex maybe, and it's
Looks
all
very
easy
complex.
sewing. I mean, it's the most basic of stars, and so it's pretty easy to make, and pretty. I think things with strong contrasts are often popular with quilters. So that's been very popular. It's called Shakespeare in the Park, and I made this one. I designed it in 2000, and I have some friends that make quilts for my books, and they always get first choice of what to make. And so one of my friends made the blue one of these, the twin size blue one, and that was in the 2000 book, Creative Pattern book. But then this had an enduring popularity, and the Creative Pattern book was out of print by the time I made this in 2020. This was actually 2022, not 2026.
Oh.
Yeah, I made it for Red, White, and Blue Star Quilts, which in that book was all about quilts with new arrangements, but only this block and this block were used in all those quilts. And they were all red, and white, blue and white, or red, white, and blue. All right, this next one is a rare example of hand quilting by me. I can only justify paying for a quilter if it's going to be in a book I'm publishing. That's part of business, you know. And I made this quilt after it was published as it was published as an alternate idea, you know. There were, I don't know, 18 or 20, maybe 15 or 20 quilts that were made in the book, and the other quilts in Singular Stars were drawings that showed you what you could do. And the book was all about Lone Stars, and I had just finished doing a book on log cabins, and log cabins are known for after you've made the block, because it's an asymmetrical block, you can play with the arrangement after you've made blocks. So it kind of extends the creative part for me, and for the reader. And so this one, instead of making the Lone Star out of 8 diamond-shaped blocks, I made it out of 32. arm of the star has 4 blocks in it. You can see this block really easily. And then there's 2 beside it and 1 at the other tip. And they're just standard Lone Star blocks. The only difference is they are all in the same kind of rainbow sequence. I call this sort of a quirky rainbow because it's not the standard rainbow colors and it skips blue altogether, and so it's not quite the normal rainbow, but it's sort of rainbow sequence. And some of the blocks start with pink, some start with red, some start with green. And see the frizzle where the yellow-orange area is? It looks like not just crisp like this does. That's because I have double diamond parallelograms there. It was designed out of 8 blocks, but I made it out of, it was designed out of 32 blocks, and I arranged them and rearranged them until I found my favorite. And then I made it out of just 8 blocks because I hate to sew the same fabric back to itself, you know? So instead of putting 2 yellow diamonds there, I put 1 yellow parallelogram by making this one big block instead. So that's just me. I told
looks like a sunburst.
Yeah, I told my well, in the book it was because I couldn't count on my readers being able to play with the arrangement drawing. I decided to tell them to make it out of 32 blocks, but I made mine out of 8 because I'm crazy. All right. Anyway, and I can't justify paying for the quilting if the book's already been printed. So I hand quilted it. So whatever. So the hand quilting is when it's not in a book. I guess you can't tell in a book anyway. This is Fanfare for the Heroes. This is from 2005 or 6. I had a typo in there and said it was 20,065. It's not from the future. I have not visited the future yet. This is Fanfare for the Heroes, and I started out with a Lone Star. This is just a regular Lone Star here. And then I made it a double block like that with 32 blocks. I put another block here, which I can hardly even see. This is, where is the other block? This is the other block. No, that isn't. This is the bigger block. But I made it out of Lone Star blocks here and here. And this is a Flying Swallows block, but a little bit adapted. Flying Swallows block has a diamond-shaped block with a diamond here, here, and here. So here is the diamond-shaped block. Wait a minute, where am I? I can't see it from close up.
You're too close.
Anyway, it's made with three diamonds going like in the sashes in that quilt over there. You got 3 diamonds and 4 triangles. That's the block. And but instead of putting just 8 diamonds in this star, I put 4 times that many. Each arm of the star has 4, so there's 32 diamonds in the block. And then I wanted to finish the stars. This is outside the block. The block goes here, and this is outside of it, and these were in the background. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that? Am I going to just put a seam here in the background? I thought, nah, I'll piece the whole background. So there's no sudden seams in this quilt. See? It's just got a zillion pieces instead. Anyway, this is the only quilt that I've done a pieced background like this. It's got very subtle stars in it, but it was kind of fun. And this is This is just more background outside of it here where these are, but I changed the background colors to look like a border. This is my most recent quilt. And I had made a quilt that had, it was a log cabin called Lakeshore Log Cabin from my 2007 book, Judy Martin's Log Cabin Quilt book. And it just had like these stars weren't here, it was just all blues there. And it made this kite shape. And I made the kite out of the light color and the dark was in the background. And when I showed that at a quilt guild, people weren't seeing the four-pointed stars that I wanted them to see. They were seeing sheep's heads, okay? And now I can't unsee the sheep's head. But anyway, it made me realize that maybe I see a little differently from some other people, and maybe I have the ability to see the light and the dark equally, and I can see what I want to see. And unfortunately, that's not what a lot of other people see. And so maybe I should have done that quilt with the dark where the kites were if I wanted them to see what I wanted to see. So I wanted to make that quilt over again with the dark in the kite shape. But I can't ever use the same thing twice. So I put a star in the corner of it. And that's something I've been doing since 1985 in my log cabins, just because log cabins are fun and all, but they don't have any stars. Okay? So I started putting diamonds in the corners so they made stars when you sewed them together. Anyway, so that was from my earlier book, Extraordinary Log Cabin Quilts, and so was this. This had just background colors here, and it was called Door County Log Cabinet, and it had a quarter ring. And so I wanted to make that quilt again because I had sold that to the museum, the International Quilt Museum in Lincoln. And I liked that quilt, so I decided I'll make another one, but it won't be the same. I put the stars in it and mixed it with this, made a medallion out of it, and so no, this is Northwoods Log Cabin, which is just kind of doing more of what I wanted to see. I was a little disappointed when I saw this mounted because working up close with it, I saw this as bright white, and I know that a print on it's going to turn it, but I didn't know it was going to make it as gray as it did, which kind of disappointed me in a little bit. All right, that was from 2026. This is Queen of Diamonds from 2017. It was in my Singular Stars book, and I made 2 stars in there where I changed the grid. So instead of having an even grid of diamonds, these are narrow and a little wider and a little wider and then get narrower again. So so I just changed the grid, and then I colored it like a checkerboard, and it did. I don't know what these things are going to do. Sometimes I just do them, and then I look at them in the computer and wow, I like that. And so so I made that one, and I made another one that had the little ones in the middle and the big outside, and that did a different look. And I didn't do it in 2 colors like this one is. I did it in, this is one color and this is another color and this is another color like a Lone Star usually is. And this is also kind of a unique border. I made these triangles that have 2 little, half of the diamond size, 2 little triangles and a diamond, and then I put it with a background colored triangle here, and then so they look like sort of standalone diamonds that that aren't connected, but they do have these connection. And I could have colored it. In another quilt I did the same border, but I colored it differently, and it looks like it's a completely different border. This is Thanksgiving, and I'm going to have you start by looking at that quilt directly on that wall. It's the log cabin with a star in the middle and then a few little stars in it. Well, look at the border. If you look at three consecutive stars in the border, you'll see a curve. Do you see how they curve? They aren't in a straight line. They're really just staggered back and forth, but by putting a background colored strip, on one end of the star and then the opposite end of the next star, what I was doing was being lazy. I didn't want to match the joints, so I staggered them. And then I call laziness the mother of invention, because I was lazy and I made the stars staggered so I didn't have to match the points. And then when I made this quilt, I was being lazy. I put stars in only some of the blocks because they have 1 inch triangle points. That's pretty tiny, 4-inch stars. So I decided, well, I'll only put it in some of the stars. Well, I think it's an interesting effect. This is kind of giving it a little smattering look. And that was laziness too. And I only thought of it because of my natural inclination to be lazy. And then when I put the border on the quilt, it added like twice as many or 3 times as many stars as I would have had if I put stars in all the blocks. So maybe I wasn't being lazy after all. Well, anyway, so you've seen that curve in the border there. That is what gave me the idea to put blocks in a circle, just by staggering. There's a strip here on one end and a strip here on the other, and the blocks are turned, and they're an asymmetrical block anyway because they have stem on one end and part of the leaf on the other. So, and this is a staggered star border only with leaves. So leaves instead of stars. And so I often riff on my own designs, but this has sashing that's in the background color. I often do, I almost never do sashing that you can see as strips. I kind of don't like the regimentation that makes you see rows and columns. But I just put background colored ones, and it makes the leaves look like they're floating in little eddies in the wind, as if the eddies would ever do that.
Is that your only one without a star?
Oh, I have other quilts without stars,
Okay.
but maybe in this room, no, that log cabin
All right.
doesn't have stars. But yeah, pretty much I put a star everywhere I can. I put scraps wherever I can, and I like to do new sets. This is a very simple log cabin. It's just a 7-inch block with 1-inch squares on one half and 1-inch logs on the other half. So the light is logs and the left is postage stamps. And I did a self border, which means it's made out of the blocks, but they're in a different arrangement around the border so that it looks like it has a zigzag border. And this block being small allowed me to do 3 stars in the middle. I mean, 4 stars, actually 5 stars in the middle of this log cabin. There's 4 with a dark center, and this one is a star as well if you squint at it right. And anyway, so this is my old standby, the barn raising set, with some differences. Like here, I kicked out the one block, turned it wrong for a barn raising, but right for the quilt. So this is postage stamp log cabin that is not in any book. I might write a pattern someday if my husband will proofread one. I'm semi-retired now. I'm only just making quilts for fun now. Anyway, this is made after I stopped writing books.
How many pieces are in there?
Oh, okay, well, it has like 6,600 and something quilt pieces in it. So, yeah, pieces don't bother me. I don't know. I'm not afraid to do a lot of pieces. I'm going to do a lot of pieces anyway, because after this quilt's done, I'm just going to start another one. So, so it doesn't matter if I put more time in this one, I guess. Anyway, Yeah, it has a lot of pieces. Not everybody's gonna wanna make that, but I'm not writing the pattern anyway. But it's easy enough to figure out. All right, here we have Capistrano, and this is my favorite border I've ever done. And the block, everything is made out of this block, which is this is called Capistrano for the flying swallows block that it's made from. So the block is like this, and I have those in the border and those in the block. They're here in the block, but I've added extra diamonds in the background here so that they look like overlapped stars now instead of what a flying swallows usually looks like. And so there's only 4 completed stars in the quilt, and they're in the middle of each border. The border's made out of the same units, and what you sew, like for the border, what you sew is these angled strips that are part of the next block sewn to this. So there's parts of this block and parts of, so this goes with this block, and this block is a different color, but that's in the same thing. And so you have to really map it out carefully and keep your head screwed on straight. That's not for everybody. It also has 800 gazillion set-in seams. Every one of these is a set-in seam, so 2 for every one of these diamond blocks. And I thought, nobody's gonna make this. I hesitated putting it on the cover, even though I really liked it. On the cover of the book, it was in Stellar Quilts. People made it. If they like it enough, people will. I don't know, if you're not a quilter, a set-in seam is a place where you have to stop the seam right at the point and then put it in with the other stuff, and it's a fussy thing. And I don't know, that it's enough to make me, you know, do. Sometimes I avoid it. You're like in that one, I avoided set-in seams. The fanfare for the heroes, I avoided setting seams by adding a gazillion extra patches. So, whatever. I do what the quilt is asking of me. I'm just a slave to my quilt. This is Snake River Log Cabin. And it's the first time I tried to do a curved log cabin. At the time, I think people were already doing some curved log cabins, but the curve was very subtle because they were doing it with the width of the log. So they would make the light side with 1-inch logs and the dark side with, 7/8 inch logs or 3/4 inch logs or 1.5 inch logs or something. So they would do it with different widths of logs, and maybe, I don't know, I don't know exactly what they were doing, but they were doing it with the width, which is a harder way to get some of the effects I was after. I wanted to make a drunkard's path out of logs. So what I did was I drew a log cabin block, and then I superimposed a circle and tried to make the log lengths hit the circle. So I do it with log lengths instead of log widths. All the logs are the same width. And then it looked like it had too much white because it had white all here and dark here. So I decided, okay, I'll add these and double the number of patches in the quilt. Anyway, am I stupid or what?
No.
Anyway, the block now has this.
Yes.
The block now has this white. The white you don't actually see as a row of squares, but you see the red, and one of the reasons you see the red is that the white is there,
Right.
and that makes the quilt. I mean, I can make a better circle, a quarter circle now, as you will see in the quilt that I have in the Guild exhibit in the room down the hall. But I forgot what I was going to tell you. I can make a better one, but because this one is kind of a little bit of an angle here, it was hard to get this all to look like a curve. Anyway, that's been a favorite too. But it's not hard to sew. I don't have any curves that you have to sew. They're just extra pieces. And this is just a log cabin for 3/4 of the blocks in it. But I had told you I would put diamonds in the corners of the traditional log cabin to make stars, like Lemoyne stars, like these. It made stars like these in the corners of the log cabin, and any way you turn the blocks, you'd still get the stars. Well, here, the problem with doing that is that the stars have to contrast with both the darks and the lights. And when you're using scraps, you want a little variety in your darks and lights. And it's hard to get a color that will contrast with all the darks that you use and all the lights that you use. So in order to get the contrast I wanted, I decided to make this star all in the light half of the block. So you don't piece it quite in the sequence that you would for a log cabin, but it's, and they were fussy and little, so that's why I only made some of them. But I think it was, I think it was a good idea to have just a smattering of them instead of having them everywhere.
Yes,
And,
yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's very effective.
And I wouldn't have thought about it if I hadn't been so lazy.
Oh.
So just remember that. Laziness is the mother of invention. This quilt is State Fair Star. And somewhere along the line, I saw something that in one of my quilts that made me realize, oh, you can fit a star block in this part of a diamond block. And so I made a little feathered star here, but it made that in the design look blank in the middle. So I thought I have to put a star there. But what really fit with the patches was this star is the square root of 2 times the size of this star. And that's not a nice number. And 1.414, I don't know, some people have figured it out really far. But it never stops. It's always got another digit added to it if you care to go further. And so I thought, I did a lot of calculations to figure out what numbers would allow me to make this and this different by the square root of 2 and still land on the ruler. And what it took was for me to realize that when you make a right triangle, like a half square triangle, you know you add 7/8 of an inch to the seam allowance. That's not really the mathematical number. It's off by 2/100ths of an inch. So that gave me permission to be off by 2/100ths of an inch. And I found numbers that you could multiply by the square root of 2 and be off by 2/10,000ths of an inch. So there's some good numbers out there. You just have to punch numbers in your calculator. Or buy my book, Judy Martin's Ultimate Rotary Cutting Reference. Because when I found those numbers, I was gonna spread the word, because these are the numbers you can use to make these shapes in these sizes. So I found the numbers to do this. I wanted to put a feathered border around, feathers around the edge of the big star, but that wouldn't land on a ruler no matter what I did. So I decided I will settle for this. And anyway, I just love the feathers, and I love that it's a different block altogether. It's a diamond-shaped block, and then putting them together gives you this other big star in the center. So that was fun for me. I'm not done. I got 2 more. You're not rid of me yet.
Just for that one.
Yeah, just
Judy, can you talk more about the square root of 2?
No. Usually when I mention the square root of 2, he's going like this. No. You don't have to know the square root of 2 because I do. Okay? So I make it easy for anybody who has my book. Anyway, this is Star of Wonder. When I had just finished the log cabin book that this is in, when I was starting this book. And one of my friends made a quilt that I had designed that had, it had a block sort of like this, which has some long parallelograms instead of diamonds, so it wasn't all diamonds. And then she turned half of the blocks and made a different pattern than I was expecting her to do. And she's a real maverick. And so it's really fun to work with her because she comes up with new things too. So she turned some of the blocks and got a different look. And I thought, oh, what if I made each arm of the star out of 4 blocks, and they have long diamonds in them, so they're asymmetrical, and then I can multiply the possibilities for arranging them. And that was great fun for me because here I am making a Lone Star, and it's like a log cabin that gives you fun to play with it at the end after you've made the blocks. And I showed in the book 12, I made a couple of quilts like this, and showed 12 ways of arranging them. And so, yeah, I learned from my helpers too. And this one is from Extraordinary Log Cabin Quilts from 2013. And the log cabin, as I've been talking to you about, like the first quilt, it's just a block that's divided diagonally into light and dark halves. So this is a regular log cabin that's red on one half and white on the other half. And at full size, I drew circles over the full-size block of the log cabin, then reduced it down so I could see what it looked like, overlapped those circles, and so here I drew these circles and these circles, you know, so you draw all those circles and it makes this pattern. And I decided to put this square framed with 4 triangles at the junctures. And whatever way you turn the block, so in a barn raising or a straight furrows or any set that you want, this black network of circles appears because it's not asymmetrical, that's symmetrical. So that's why it's always, no matter how you turn the log cabin blocks, it's always going to be the same. And that was really fun for me because I don't know, I like doing new things, and I like things that look, I don't know, maybe dimensional or different. And I like doing circles without, I've never sewn a curved seam since I stopped making shirts. and you don't have to either. Yeah, and you don't have to. You can do that with approximations of curves and get the same look. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much.
Should we just leave here?